Hello, and welcome to Bullish Video Games. I am going to continue on into the next mission here. Hopefully this one won't take me as long as the last one, but we shall see. A murder.
That'll teach her not to spread lies on the internet. At the very least, you should spread lies in person. Obviously, that would still be illegal and disgusting, of course, but it's certainly braver and much cooler. But anyways, this next case is a bit more of a personal favor. See, my kid spends a lot of time on what they call online multiplayer video games. You heard of these things? Crazy stuff. Recently, he got into one called The Legends of New Hampshire. Problem is, apparently his character got ambushed or something, and he lost some valuable virtual items. Anyways, he's been crying about it all week, so if you could solve this case for me, I'd appreciate it. On your computer, you'll find a log of everyone who got damaged in that Hampshire game on the day my kid's character died. He also sketched out the virtual item he lost because, well, he thought it was important. I also attached a photo of my kid crying just to show you what I have to deal with these days. Hopefully, though, after you solve this case, I won't have to deal with that anymore.
Okay. Nice use of police resources. Are you looking at the clues? The only screenshot we have here is Legends of New Hampshire website. Excalibur 32, you died. Apparently he looked up a wiki on dying. My weapon thief. So assumedly we are looking for a sword. Damage log here. Oh, Jesus Christ. So it looks like we're gonna have to narrow it down by time. The weapon used to kill him. And is this a damage taken for the weapon? For the character? Like what does this represent? And we are moving on to the next chapter in the instruction manual. Chapter 7, Operator Overlord. Now that you've learned all of the major components of a SQL query, your job is done. You've learned everything. Ha ha ha, just kidding. Imagine if that were the case. Life is hell. There's always more to learn, so let's learn more operators and get into more detail about how operators work. Like, instead of using the equals operator to select columns that exactly match a text value, we can use the like operator to select columns that contains part of a text value. This operator can be useful when we don't know exactly what we want to select, but do know certain keywords or characters that the final result should have. Here's an example of how it's used. This query gets all first names that start with the letter S. The percent character represents the rest of the text. If this like condition used %s, then this query would get all first names that end with the letter S. Without the percent character, the like operator would function the same as the equals operator. So here we have an example. We are looking for all information from people table where the first name is like, and then it has S % sign. So all first names starting with the letter S. So this is going to be incredibly useful in helping to narrow down, I hope. Or, unlike the AND key, which ensures all combined conditions are true for each row in the final result, combining conditions with the OR keyword ensures that just one of the conditions needs to be true for each row in the final result. So I inadvertently used this in the last one. I just kind of made the intuitive leap that if you can have AND, well, you should also be able to do OR, because then it'll still tell the program, hey, I'm looking for all the keywords in this condition. It does not have to be the final ultimate compilation of results. I don't think that made sense, but whatever. Order of operations. SQL follows the standard order of operations, also called precedence, where operators are evaluated from left to right in the following order. Any operators inside parentheses, multiplication, division, and modulo. I still don't know how to say that. I should Google it. Operators, whichever comes first. Addition and subtraction, whichever comes first. We always call it PEMDAS. I don't think I've ever heard it referred to as precedence. Maybe that's just math. When evaluating conditions in the where or having statements, the AND keyword gets evaluated before the OR keyword. For example, take a look at the table to the right. If we had a query like the one below, the result would be the same table due to the AND being evaluated first. Selecting all data from example table where column 1 equals 1 or column 2 equals 2 and column 3 equals 3. This can be visualized by adding parentheses around the conditions next to the AND operator like below. The query above and below are identical. So all I did was add parentheses around the column 2 and then end parentheses around the 3. So another way to visually represent precedence. We'd like to evaluate the OR keyword first. We would need to put parentheses around the column 1 and column 2 conditions. The same applies for math equations. If you expect operators of lower precedence, like addition, to be evaluated before operators of higher precedence, like multiplication, make sure to use the parentheses. Distinct. When selecting columns, the distinct keyword can be used to ensure no duplicate rows appear in the final result. Distinct can also be used inside aggregate functions to only apply the function on unique values within a column. I wish they had an example of what this would look like, because all it's saying is select distinct first name from the people table. So maybe if there was multiple unique results in other columns, but not sure. For example, this query to the right gives us the total amount of first names in the people table without counting the duplicates. Okay, this one makes a little more sense. So we're finding the entire row amount, but distinctly first name, so we just want the unique characteristics. Chapter summary. Wow, you've learned so much about SQL. Learning about all these different operator statements concept. Are you doing alright? You might want to consider slowing down. Learning all of this for one sitting might be too much concentrated knowledge for a single person to process, let alone for a database detective to process. This could result in neuron overcapacitation, the #1 cause of death for us database detectives. This is due to our abnormally sparse brain activity, as people in our profession have 75% less neurons than normal people. I think we just got called stupid. So if we look at the clue here, it is New Hampshire.wiki, dying. Dying is generally considered to be not great. Citation needed. The same holds true in the Legends of New Hampshire, as dying leaves your currently equipped weapons vulnerable to being looted until you respawn the next day when the server is open at 6 a.m. How to not die. Step 1, do not get killed. These are the players who do not follow step 1. Let's see what the general wiki says. Jesus Christ. Okay. Welcome to the unofficial wiki for the Legends of New Hampshire, written by the community. Yes, we know this game wasn't sold as advertised and is missing lots of contents, but we are still an active, growing community. If you're new and curious about the game, take a look at the articles below to learn more. Bugs reported, bugs fixed. Oh yeah, I am definitely not going to read all of this, but I'm going to take a look around and see what I can deduce. See you in a second. Quick interjection. Guilds. You can join guilds. These are all clickable. 3, 5, 15. I've got a lot of sifting to do. Christ. Hey, you guessed it, editor me here again. So, like the last 2 times, I spent an incredible amount of time trying to figure this out. And so I'm about to show you the retconned version of where everything is much more succinct, and I'm not just bumbling around staring at a screen trying to figure it out, because after all, I am trying to make this as entertaining and helpful as possible. So, with that, I will then show you my quote-unquote more elegant solution, after which I will show you the original effort where I do in fact get the achievement toast. Hey, future me here again. So I already tried recording this once, leading you through what I thought was the more refined solution. Turns out there is still stuff I missed. Just a testament to show you just how much the developer was able to shove in here. So I completely did this from scratch, just to kind of show you guys what you'll encounter if you're doing this for the first time. So this is just us trying to catch a virtual murderer. So looking at the clues, this is his kid's handle, and this is the website he was using, this newhampshire.wiki. So that's where we'll go. And I'm not going to read all this like I normally do, just because there is a lot here. If we go to the wiki page, these are all tabs that are readable, and yes, you do need all of them to help solve this case. So I already read a lot trying to figure this out, trying to record earlier. So all I can say is, if you are enjoying this, support the dev, get the game. But just to show you, So we start with the damage log. We start by looking for his character. And we'll call this victim log. So you can see here, he was on from 1331 to 1351. This is implying this is when he died. And he was killed by a rare rusted dagger. We will come back to that. Looking at this other clue, this is going to be used in conjunction with the weapons article. Where if you look here, weapon effects, this is what I would say be burning. And then weapon qualities, which are purely cosmetic, have no gameplay benefit. Purple is rare. So we're looking for a rare burning sword. And if you look at the damage log, this is something you can query for. And if you look at the earlier chapter that I did read from, so what you can do is use the query, and like it mentioned from the chapter before, you can use the % to search for like items if you're not sure of the sword type. However, based on the wording, it goes by quality, then effect, and then the weapon. So we are in fact looking for a rare burning sword. And I'll label this weapon log. So these times coincide with when Excalibur was using it. However, it looks like he was killed at 1351. It coincides right here. However, it was later picked up and used around this time. But before I show you that, I just want to point something out. If you're looking at the characters damaged here in the enemies list, it'll show you Skeletal Warrior, Corrupted, Lost Peasant. It tells you what kind of weapons they used in conjunction with the locations. These are all enemies that either spawn in the Manchester Grasslands or the Dark Forest of Rockingham. So these more or less are not necessarily red herrings, but they're kind of false flags, because these are all just NPC characters. However, what's important to us is that we want to look for players that were on about the same time that the sword was later used. So the time is going to be after 1812, but before 1814. And here we have some NPCs, and this is our first real player to follow, Goldtooth. Here they were attacked by a rusted pitchfork, which, looking at the enemies list, was done by a lost peasant, meaning that at the time, Goldtooth was somewhere in the Manchester Grasslands. Now we actually got to follow the trail, and this is where it took me a long time to narrow this down. And this was even after consulting the Steam discussion pages to give me hints, trying not to necessarily give me the answers, but just nudge me in the right direction. And it still took me about 3 hours, and even then the first time, I still sort of got it by luck. And then where you actually look up player profiles is under the trading section. You look up Goldtooth, and they are collector, the rarest weapons of New Hampshire. You look at their transaction history, and here it says rare burning sword in the note for 2150 from this person. I'm not going to pronounce it. So you follow up on this person. Here they got paid for the rare burning sword. However, this right here with no note implies that they bought the sword from the Cash Boys Guild, implying that someone from the Cash Boys murdered Excalibur and took the sword. The guild pages that I showed you earlier. If we start looking around, we follow these things called pay-ups, where we can download transaction histories, and we can also view members. So here, Excalibur conveniently is in the first guild we look up. So checking out player profiles, and yes, you can look up every profile that is listed somewhere on this site. So Excalibur 32, warrior class, also selling guild passwords. I had said before that I kind of wish that this is the reason he got banned and his character didn't just kill. That would have been pretty funny, but no, his character actually got killed. So we can follow his transaction history and see what he's been up to as well. So we'll just take a look real quick. And all this really tells us is that he's been buying and selling weapons and paying a membership to the Cash Boys for now. We'll come back to it. If you look at his profile, though, he says he's also a member of the Lore-Loving Merchants. So following that guild, these are supposedly experts of the New Hampshire lore. They have their own pay-up, which here doesn't really tell us much, just that they're getting a lot of money. However, how to join? You have to take their LSAT test, which is 5 questions. So yes, you have to go through and answer all of these. What I recommend doing for the time being is just opening up a second browser. So the first question asks, who discovered the Manford Swamplands? Go to locations. If you read this paragraph, it doesn't tell you exactly who. However, if you keep reading through these, Manchester Grasslands, not named for the grass, but for the Manchester grass. So if we follow this logic, this is just a play on words, then the man who founded Manford Swamplands is just Ford Swamp. And then the second question, what is the sludge in the swamplands made out of? I was not a big fan of the answer to this. So if you go into quests, because I was trying all types of stuff. You know, magic, illegal dumping, noxious fumes, whatever. Go into any types. I was trying parasite, slime, spit. But no, this is what it is, and this is how I found it. The answer is Vit Juice. The only reason I even guess that is because they're the same color of purple, and that is it. So I'm not a huge fan of the fact that the only thing that really tied it together is the fact that they're both purple. Maybe there's a hint in the fact that if you read the enemies, the slime can regenerate, both the slime father and the slime head. And the Vit Juice can restore health. So maybe that was like a little hint, but at the same time, it wasn't the best connection I found. However, this is the correct answer. What effect is equivalent to the cursed weapon effect? So here we got to go back to the damage log. And here, we can just look for stuff that's cursed. And furthermore, we can also order it by damage taken. I always forget to buy. So then to further add to this, we go back to enemies. The Skeletal Warrior and the Cursed Scythe. So this already gives us a base damage. However, if you go to the weapons, Scythe is not in there, so we have to go by Sword. Sword deals 6 to 8. We go to enemies. Skeletal Warriors are just warriors who were slain, and warriors, based on classes, have a base damage of 10 to 12. So 10 to 12 plus the 6 to 8, that gives us a range of 16 to 20. And if we look specifically for swords, actually we can probably narrow that down even further. So if we order by damage taken, the spread is 18 to 22. So adding up based on the warrior class 10 to 12 and the sword 6 to 8, that gives us 16 to 20. Given the spread, you have an additional +2. Go back to weapons, and poisoned is the equivalent of +2. And then here are the last 2 questions. What does zippity mean in Hamp? How do you say dark forests in Hamp? This makes use of the quest page. Right here, you just have some gibberish, and this is more of a process of elimination, trying to match which words possibly mean what other words. So here is zippity. We have a couple iterations here to suggest that flippity means slime, skippity means skeletal, zippity most likely means corrupted then. And then how do you say dark forest? Here, dark forest appears twice. Here, swamplands appears twice. Here, diddly appears twice. Here, dippity appears twice. So, first mistake I made was I just said diddly means dark forest. It's actually diddly d means dark forest. And if you get all those right, it'll give you the password to the forum, New Shire City. And again, this is a lot to read through. So I'm just going to show you some of the more pertinent ones. But the basic one here is that you are to not share passwords. However, if you look on this forum, worth it to join other guilds, someone's asking about joining other guilds, and you see Excalibur32 say, if you're interested in joining the Cash Boys, I'm selling their password. And you actually have a taker named Smarty that they're interested in, and that they'll pay 20 bucks. Excalibur will say send. So we look at the profile Smarty, and their pay up, Smart Sue, transaction history, and sure enough, they gave 20 bucks to Excalibur with the note make money. Now when I first played this completely went over my head. I thought it was literally a note, just Excalibur telling himself to make money. This, however, is the password to the Cash Boys forum. So we go back to Cash Boys, put in the password make money, and that lets us in to the Cash Boys forum. And this is what I completely missed that gives you a bit more clues, but there are some intuitive leaps that I'm not exactly fond of. You go through the rules, it tells you here what it takes to join, what it takes to become a premium member, and then just some other flavor text. If you look at the premium guild inventory, you can see that there is in fact a rare rusted dagger, and that is unavailable. So you remember from the first table we made, Excalibur was killed with a rare rusted dagger, meaning that this weapon was accessed and is still currently in the possession of somebody with a premium membership. So how do we find premium? Well, the rules say members who pay $250 or more to this guild in membership fees or donations will become premium members. So lucky for us, Cash Boys has their own pay-up account. There's so many tables in this one, guys. There's so many tables. So what we are looking for is the account, and then we are also going to add up the amount, which I will just leave as is, from the Pay Up Cash Boys account. And we are also going to group by the Pay Up account. We are going to order by, actually we'll relabel this as donation. We're going to order that by donation. We're going to stipulate that the sum of the amount is greater than or equal to $250. And we'll label this premium boys. There we go. So here we have a list of premium members. Donation amounts don't really matter so long as we know that is $250 or higher. So then the rest of the clues then essentially almost come through solely through detective work. We go to the forum here. If you start reading around, you'll see that they elected a new president. And if you read through the forum, you see someone saying, why wasn't Excalibur's rare burning sword calculated in his vote? Because previously, votes will be weighted based on inventory value. Those with higher inventory values will be affected by election results. So then when this person asks, why wasn't Excalibur's rare burning sword calculated in his vote? Some congratulations. Someone saying, as far as I know, he doesn't have the sword anymore. And essentially some politicking suggesting that this was rigged so that Excalibur didn't have as hefty as a sway. And here is another clue you can kind of look at. Best place to kill and loot. Say the grasslands, dark forest enemies are tougher, so it's harder to mug people with low HP. If you look at the map, you're basically saying around number 3, Manchester grasslands, people who go adventuring into the dark forest come back are low HP, and then basically you can rob them there. Based on Excalibur's time history, it looks like the trajectory they were on. Rusted pitchfork, which is used by the lost peasants in the grasslands, cursed weapons, which are used by the dark forest NPCs, and then they were attacked somewhere after that. So this is where you have to do a lot of digging and a lot of rigging to kind of get the context for who may or may not be involved. If you look at Vote Grinch, they are putting in their ballot for president. And you have Moneyman, Fat Cat, J Meister, all in support. Which if you look at the premium list, you have Grinch, Fat Cat, and J Meister all implicated in rigging this election. So going back to damage log, you have here a list of the 2 characters that were on the same day as Excalibur and who are premium members. However, looking at the times, J Meister is really the only one who was on at the same time as Excalibur. And if you look at their trajectory, it looks like they started in the grasslands, headed towards the dark forest, and then came back in the grasslands. Another way to narrow it down too, you look at the weapon used, rare rusted dagger, the damage taken, which is 9. Check out the weapons. Dagger has a damage of 2 to 4. Rusted, however, takes it down 2 notches, meaning that the damage they inflicted could only have been 0 to 2. We look at the classes, 0 to 2, meaning that the base damage, at the very least, had to be 7 to 9. So looking at the classes, you either have the Rogue or the Bard. So if we look at the Cash Guild, we can narrow that down to players that are just Bards or just Rogues. And we can join it with our premium member table. And like I've been pointing out earlier, the name J Meister comes up again, so he's looking more and more guilty. You can check the other names if you want. In fact, we'll do that. However, if you look at the times, first of all, these are the only 2 players that populate, and they still don't coincide with the time Excalibur was killed. So again, J Meister looks extremely guilty. So we follow his name to his pay account, we look up his transaction history, and there's a couple different ways to find out his real name. The first, you can see going by this donation, goes to another site called savelives.gov. And this is a donation site for soldiers in their universe. Kind of wish we could figure out a way to send payment. But it tells you, based on the donation amount, how much they paid. So here, if you look at the savelives.gov transaction history, you can see everyone who's paid. We are going to look up their pay up account. We are also going to sum the amount. We're going to group by their pay up account. I forgot we just look them up directly. So here, he has more than 150, but less than 250, so he's considered a patriot. And going by the name, it populates a couple different names, which really isn't that helpful, but it narrows it down. So instead of the savelive.gov, we scroll through here, and there's 2 other websites you want to pick out. One is this recurring payment to this website called Rent Forever, which is another site you can go to. Here, it's just a rental agency, and you can view all listings. So we want to look for all information from rentals, where monthly rent is equal to $1,100, that's what he was paying every month. And we want to make sure that the availability is not available, because assumedly he's still living there. And here it gives us 2 neighborhoods he can live in. Either the coal mining district or the refineries. Keep that in mind. So then the other site you want to look for is that he keeps getting these payouts from clowncar.com, which is a pretty funny site that offers a clown-based taxi service. I would be terrified if I saw a bunch of clowns driving people around. But it gives you a list of drivers based on neighborhood. So then what we can do is narrow it down from drivers where the neighborhood is equal to either the coal mining district or the refineries. And before we do any of that, we want their first name to start with J. And don't forget the parentheses, because it is a huge pain in the ass. And the name that corresponds is Jordan Benjamin. Let me join this though. There we go. Alright, more refined down. Jordan Benjamin. So There we go. Assuming I showed you all right, this should be the guy.
Whew. Thanks, Detective. I just told my kid what happened and he stopped crying. Finally, some peace and quiet.
That was a lot. This one, I can't remember if I said it earlier, took me 3 hours to figure out, and that was with help from the Steam pages. So, again, it is still a lot of fun. I really do like the implementation of using all of these different pages to put the clues together. However, I don't necessarily like the intuitive leaps of just assuming certain things, like that the player was from the same guild, or that he was the one who in fact did take the weapon when that can't be confirmed. And there's just some things that, in terms of storytelling, I wish were more precise. But overall, for a programming game, like, this is still really good. So, with that out of the way, I am going to show you my original recording where I more or less took a 50-50 shot again, but I still managed to get it right. And I still managed to get it right even with the incomplete information I had. Okay, I admit, I had to look up some help to push me in the right direction. However, if I did this correctly, this should be the guy. We shall see. You are commanded to arrest Joseph Tyson under the accusation of killing Excalibur 32 in the Legends of New Hampshire, violating blah blah blah, which prohibits first-degree murder of a player-controlled virtual character. God, that's a lot of tables. Holy crap, that was right. I totally forgot to record an outro for this video when I was originally recording, just because I was so relieved to have actually solved it that I forgot about the rest of the video. So, if you bothered to watch this far, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.